In this week's study, Tried and Crucified, we look at the books of Mark 15 verses 1 to 47, Luke 13 verses 1, Psalms 22 verses 18, John 20 verses 24 to 29, John 1 verses 1 to 3, and Daniel 9 verses 24 to 27. Our memory text is from the book of Mark 15 verse 34, which reads, "And at the 9th hour Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani, which is translated, my God, why have you forsaken me?" Mark 15 verses 1 to 47 is the heart of the Passion narrative. It presents the trial of Jesus, his condemnation, the mockery by the soldiers, his crucifixion, and then his death and burial. The events in this chapter are presented in stark, crisp detail, likely because the author let the facts speak for themselves. Throughout this chapter, irony plays an important role. Because of this, it is helpful to have a clear definition of what irony is. Irony often contains three components. 1. Two levels of meaning. 2. The two levels are in conflict or contrast to each other. And 3. Someone does not see the irony and does not recognize what is happening and does not know that he or she is the one who will suffer the consequences. This week, from the question of Pilate, "Are you the king of the Jews?" to the mocking soldiers, the sign above the cross, and the mocking of the religious leaders. He saved others, himself he cannot save. To the unexpected appearance of Joseph of Arimathea, the chapter is filled with painful ironies that nevertheless reveal powerful truths about the death of Jesus and what it means. The question, "Are you the king of the Jews?" is the key determinant item here. In the book of Mark 15 verse 1 to 15. What kind of ironic situations occur here? Pontius Pilate was the governor of Judea from AD 26, AD 36. He was not a kind leader, and a number of his actions caused consternation among the inhabitants of the land. The Jewish trial of Jesus resulted in a death sentence for blasphemy. But under Roman rule, the Jews could not execute people in most cases, and so they brought Jesus to Pilate for condemnation. The charge against Jesus before Pilate is not mentioned, but it is possible to ascertain the charge based on the brief question that Pilate asks Jesus. "Are you the king of the Jews?" In Old Testament times, Israel anointed its kings. So, it is not hard to see how the term Messiah, the anointed one, could be twisted into claiming homage as a king in competition with the emperor. Thus, the charge brought before the Sanhedrin was blasphemy, while the charge brought before the governor was sedition, which would lead to death. The irony is that Jesus is both the Messiah and the King of the Jews. His convictions for blasphemy and sedition were mistaken. He should have received homage and worship instead. Yet, Jesus still acts in a kingly manner. His response to Pilate, "You have said so," is non-committal. He does not deny the title or affirm it. This response may suggest that he is a king, but of a different sort. Mark 15 verse 6 introduces into the narrative a custom of releasing a prisoner at the time of the Passover. In Mark 15 verse 9, Pilate asks if they want him to release the King of the Jews. And though he might have admitted ironically, the irony is really playing out against him. Mark 15 verses 9 to 10 is a study in perception and imperception. Pilate perceives that the religious leaders turned over Jesus because of envy, but he does not perceive that, by asking the crowd, he is playing into the hands of the religious leaders. They stir up the crowd and call for Jesus' crucifixion. Pilate recoils. Crucifixion was such a terrible way to die, particularly for one he considered innocent. How painfully ironic that the pagan governor wanted to release the Messiah while the religious leaders wanted him crucified. The question to you and me as a Christian is, what can keep you from following the crowd when the pressure is great to do so?